Our new partner who I'm really, really excited to announce we are working with. Super, super stoked. Thank you, Angie Huberman, for this connect. It's incredible. AG1 Athletic Greens. I've been using them for a while. I have them every morning on an empty stomach. Basically, take one scoop and you put it into a cup or glass or mug of 8 ounces of cold water. And this is all your greens for the day. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Every day I take this. It's so good for my digestion, my energy. It's simple. It's easy. I don't like taking a lot of vitamins. This has been really, really helpful for me. I've had a lot of stomach issues my whole life, and ever since I've been gluten-free and taking the AG1s, it's really helped me in my stomach in the mornings. I love it, and I'm so psyched that they're part of the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm sure a lot of people don't like eating greens, let alone drinking your greens, but I can tell you straight up, it's got a mild tropical taste, and the taste is actually really refreshing, and I really look forward to it each morning. Don't think it's just going to be just straight bland. It tastes really, really good, and it's good for you, so remember that. This one blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's incredible, just one scoop, especially for musicians who are vegans or just musicians in general who want to get those daily greens. You can get the packets. It's incredible. I just gave some to my friend Derek from Sepultura. He traveled the whole entire world this summer, and he had those every single day. He said it saved him. I bring AG1s with me when I travel. It helps me stay healthy. You know the deal. If you're on tour and you are a picky eater, but you need to have your greens, sometimes catering doesn't have greens. Sometimes you miss the catering. Sometimes you miss the backstage food. Sometimes it's too late after the show to go get food that you like. So if you just have a scoop of AG1s in your hotel room before you go to bed, or you're in the hotel room at night and you're starving and you want something healthy, boom, life changer. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with some convenient daily nutrition. That's all you need, one scoop in a cup every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. This is it. I'm super psyched. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/OLLC. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/OLLC to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. This is incredible. I love it. It's just basic greens. For me personally, this has changed my life tremendously. I'm not a junk food vegan. I don't eat a lot of fake meats, so I'm strictly greens. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful new addition to my life. So once again, visit athleticgreens.com/OLLC. and get 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. athleticgreens.com/OLOC. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. And if you want to get water, Liquid Death water, go to amazon.com. But for merchandise and other things that's not water, go to liquiddeath.com/Toby and get free shipping. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst, stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives. Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Got my brother, Derek Green, next to me. Thank you, Derek, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Toby.
And we have your friend on the pod today. It's my first time meeting him, but we're in the same vegan Illuminati world.
Word.
Mr. Paul de Gelder, thank you for being here, man.
Pleasure, mate.
We've been having great conversations before this pod even started.
Yeah,
outside.
I mean, a lot of questions.
I know. I know where to begin with this guy.
Well, you have like 500 pages of notes here.
I do. And I just found out he was an MC. We'll have to get to that later. I guess we could take it back to the roots of Australia.
The roots.
Yeah.
The roots. Growing up, what part of Australia are you from?
Complicated question.
Ooh.
So I was born in a little town called Mornington Peninsula. For anyone that knows Damien Mander, who's part of the Vegan Illuminati as well, runs the International Anti-Poaching Foundation in Zimbabwe. He's also born from there. He's also from there. Little coastal town known for horse racing and wineries. My dad was a cop, and he got posted to Canberra when I was 10.
That's the capital of Australia.
It is the ACT, Australian Capital Territory. And so me, my two younger brothers, my baby sister, mum and dad, we all shipped off to Canberra when I was 10. I got into tons and tons of trouble there, and then moved to Brisbane, fondly referred to as Bris Vegas, when I was on my 21st birthday.
Did not know it had that title.
Me either.
Yeah. It's a bit of a party town. Got into some mischief there as well. And then at 23, joined the army and was posted to Sydney and stayed there until I moved to America. So Melbourne, Canberra, Brisbane, Sydney.
Wow. I did read you were a wild kid. You getting arrested and stuff like that too?
I only got arrested twice. So for all of the criminal stuff that I actually did, that's pretty good. What
kind of shit were you into? What were you
Well,
doing?
the things I got busted for was shoplifting. I got caught stealing, it's stupid stuff. I didn't have any money, and so I'm like stealing stuff to sell. I got caught with a Pierre Cardin tie I was selling to a friend of mine for his dad's Father's Day, and
Pierre Cardin.
yeah, I still don't think I'm allowed in Grace Brothers, which is it's kind of like what are the department stores here? It's like a Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it just a kid you were hanging out with?
Yeah, I feel like we are always a product of our environment.
Totally.
We don't come up with this stuff really on our own. So, smoking, drinking, weed, stealing, fighting. It was all, partially because of the people I was hanging around with, partially because I was bullied and I was striking out, and so I was self-harmer as well for a little while. So it's the environment that you become a product of, and the environment, home life, school life, your friends, your enemies, that sort of stuff. And it was a heady mix of just me getting into shit the whole time.
Yeah. You have siblings?
Yeah, two younger brothers and a little sister.
And were they wild kids?
So
like-
you're the oldest. So
Yeah.
Okay.
My brother under me wasn't so much, but my brother under him, Sean, he did end up following my footsteps, but not doing it as smart as me.
Yeah.
He got caught on 33 counts of break and enter.
Wow.
Fortunately, the judge gave him the option of jail or the army, and so he actually that's why he ended up in the army first. And then my brother under me, Travis, he joined the army, and then years later I was like, hey, what do you think about me joining the army?
Was your father in the military?
Cop.
Yeah, he was a cop, but he was never.
No. My uncle was in Vietnam as a medic.
Oh, wow.
Both grandparents on both sides served in the military. So mum's parents were from England. So my grandfather on that side jumped into Normandy on D-Day for World War II, and Nana was part of the Air Force, and then Dad's family. My grandfather from Dad's side was a merchant sailor, running supplies into Russian ports and stuff, and his ship got sunk by a Japanese submarine, and he spent a few days drifting through the Pacific and then got rescued by an American ship where he served time as a cook and ended up getting an American War Medal for that.
Wow.
So, this is all stuff that I didn't even know about this stuff until
Yeah.
later after I joined the military. So there's this tradition through the family of serving.
Were your parents strict?
Yeah. Dad was strict because he was a cop, but he
Yeah.
wasn't always home. He was always at work, and so Mum was controlling 4 wild animals in the house, and so she was a clean freak. The tassels at the end of the lounge room rug all had to be uniform. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Yeah, her friends used to come over and run their fingers over every hidden surface to see if they could find dust. It's like after every shower, you've got to take your towel and dry all the shower walls, and
that's got to be
it was
as a kid. It's
suffocating.
Yeah.
That's like military vibes almost. Like
Yeah. Right.
strict.
And
Make
so
your
between
bed.
school and that, and I ended up slashing my arms up for a while, just out of frustration, because it felt like the only control I had in my life was causing harm to myself.
Wow.
But no one ever really knew about it. So I hid it pretty well.
And you were bullied in school? Like, what was your physique in school? Like, what was your deal?
Toothpick.
Okay. Yeah.
So Dad was a swimming instructor as well.
Yeah.
And so we grew up swimming. I was a almost state level swimmer most of my life. But that doesn't have the regale that it does here.
Yeah.
But we also didn't have a lot of money feeding 6 people on a policeman's wage. And so I was doing, all of these training sessions and not having the fuel to build my body and not be hungry the whole time. And so I was skinny my whole life.
Yeah.
And hungry, and then I'd break into people's lockers at school and steal their lunch money out of the gym locker rooms, and because I was hungry, and I just needed to eat, and so.
But you would get bullied in school too?
Yeah, I got bullied in school. I had huge ears because we had no fat on my body, so my ears. I got car doors, satellite. Close the car doors. You fly away with those, Dumbo. All that sort of stuff, and then as you get older, it becomes more physical.
Yeah.
So that was pretty rough. But
did you graduate from school?
I did not. I flunked high school. I ended up doing Muay Thai boxing. I had a growth spurt about 16, did Muay Thai boxing, got sick of the bullies, and then knocked out one of the school bullies.
Yes.
And so, in front of the whole school. So
yeah, they come in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't get picked on after that, and neither did my brothers. But then I was like, oh, shit, I can fight. And then drinking came along. And I was going to an all-boys Catholic school.
Okay.
And so that was... it's harsh. It's just dudes. It was a big rugby school, but I was too skinny to play rugby. I was just terrible at all team sports. So it was fucked up, man. Those are the worst years of my life ever.
Wow.
Yeah, I would never want to go back to that. Then I left that school and went to another one. It was like an artsy school where you could smoke in the quad and you call the teachers by their first names. And so we'd go to school stoned. And then on the weekends, we'd go steal boxes of wine and get shit-faced drunk and then go fight. And I didn't win too many of those fights, but it was just an outlet to go and be with a small group of friends and get drunk and fight and go to the nightclubs. They had dollar drinks at this place called Nights, a hip hop nightclub, and we'd get like our $20 down there and just buy 20 drinks all at once, all together, and just go back to our tables with this tray of 20 bourbon and cokes we'd called gut rot, because it was like that syrup cola mixed with the cheapest bourbon you could get, and so it's like every night you're throwing up, and it was
what made you even consider?
How did I go from getting bullied in school to the army?
Yes.
I mean, you had such a...
We are back. Let's go.
You had crazy, no discipline, it seemed like.
It gets crazier.
Yeah, from a strict home life to go to more strict in the military.
Well, but you were also running with some crazy deviants, and it just seemed like you're kind of radical.
No,
why?
It didn't feel like we were deviants, though.
Okay.
It didn't feel like we were like bad people.
I'm not saying you're bad.
Like we never picked on anyone. We were never bullies because we got bullied.
You bullied the bullies.
Yeah, we would never pick fights with people smaller than us or people that weren't out doing the same thing as us. But it was like where we grew up in Canberra. It was like these rolling drunken fights every weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of racial stuff going on as well. It was the Serbs fighting the Croatians, the Macedonians fighting I can't remember who they fought. It was like some other group. Right. There was the Tongans fighting the Samoans. Oh. It was always like groups, and then us white kids getting caught in the middle of a bunch of them. But it kind of like I flunked out of high school. I got kicked out of home because I was setting a very bad example for my younger siblings. And Dad just called me at my friend's house one day and said, "Come and get your shit and fuck off. I'm sick of this shit."
How old were you then?
I would just turn 18.
Okay.
And it was fair. It was a hard pill to swallow, but absolutely fair, and probably one of the better things you could have done for me. I did go into a bit of a hole for a while. I was living with 2 Indonesian girls that took me and friends from school, and I just basically ate their leftover Indonesian food and smoked bongs and cigarettes, and I was just a huge waste of oxygen.
You had no goals or anything at that
I didn't even know what goals to have. Like, there was no guidance growing up for me. Okay. Like, there was no, there was always the question, what do you want to do when you grow up? But there was no guidance. There was no, like, this is what you can do. If you study hard in this, you can do this. It was like, all I knew was, okay, there's police, there's, like, doctors, there's vets. Like, my field of view of what the possibilities in the world were for work was so small. I didn't know how to put direction into anything. And then there was nothing I was interested in either, because life just sucked. It was just, everything just sucked at that point in time. And, partially, maybe mostly by my own doing. But there was no communication in my house. It was just, it wasn't a wonderful environment to grow up in.
Was your dad like tough love kind of thing?
My parents did, they tried to do a good job. It's not their fault.
Right.
You raise kids the way that you were raised, very, very much so. Yeah. Until I feel like it's better now, because we're just more open-minded people. We have the information available through internet and TV and all that sort of stuff. But then they didn't have any of that. Yeah. It was just you raise your kids the way you were raised, and both their parents were extremely strict. So not their fault at all. I love them to death. Because I'm living out here and I don't see them very often. I split my military pension between the two of them to help them out and try and make their lives a little bit better for the things they sacrificed for me.
They still together?
No, they're separated. Okay. But
was there like a turning point where you're like, okay, military? Like, how did that even come into play?
Military or jail?
That came years later. So I'm just about to turn 21. I'm still in Canberra. I'm selling weed. I got all these people turning up on my doorstep that I don't know. I'm smoking weed. I'm like working hospitality. So, we're doing lines of multicolored speed or whatever it was, powder off the kegs of beer out the back. We're doing ecstasy on the weekend. We worked at a restaurant/bar, so we knew all the bartenders. So we're drinking for free every weekend. Yeah. Like, it was just a train wreck.
Yeah.
And it all came to a head one night when I went to a farewell for a friend of mine, and he was being deported out of the country back to Papua New Guinea because he got into too much crime. And I got jumped by 20 dudes.
20 dudes?
Yeah. They were, I don't mean this to sound bad, but they were all Asian, so it wasn't as bad as if it was like big dudes. They're all pretty small guys.
Right.
So, I did get a beating. I got out of there.
What happened?
Yeah.
So this little Indian kid tried to get me to buy him a beer, and I said no. And he took offense to that, and I told him to fuck off, and he threw a beer at me. And so I stood up to have a go at him because I'm not going to stand for that. And then some of his friends popped up. I broke one of their friends' nose with an elbow, and turns out they were there with a big group of other people.
Wow.
And so I just stood my ground as much as I could, ended up in the fetal position, got rescued by one of the Papua New Guinean uncles, and I just got out of there.
Wow.
And my buddy who ran the bar at the nightclub we were working at, he's like, hey, have you noticed these cars of Asian dudes driving past the house frequently? I'm like, fuck. So I made a decision, like, if I stay here, I'm going to be dead or in jail by the time I'm 23. And, I knew that there was this big, amazing world out there.
Okay.
Like, I lived in books as a kid. That was my escape.
That's awesome.
Right.
Always read, constantly read, loved movies, loved Steve Irwin, loved David Attenborough, Valerie Taylor, people that you guys wouldn't have heard of, the Leyland brothers and Albie Mangles, like adventurers.
Yeah.
And so I knew that there was this big world out there, but I didn't know how to be a part of it. And I wanted that so badly. That's why I was getting into all the trouble. I was wanting adventure.
Right. Yeah.
So I threw everything I owned into this tiny little Suzuki car. They don't even make anymore. They're so small. And without a license, I drove 12 hours to Brisbane.
Without a license?
Yeah, I had no license. Drove 12 hours to Brizzy. And my mate, Matt, that I had grown up with in Canberra, he'd moved up there like the year before to work as a DJ.
Okay.
And so he got me a job working behind a bar in the strip club that he was DJing at.
Got you.
And I fell in with his American friends that were involved in the hip-hop industry. Yeah. And so I became a bartender at a strip club and a rapper.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So were you already into hip-hop growing up, too?
Yeah, I loved it. That was all I listened to. When Mum was treating me like shit or yelling at me, it was like body counts. Mum has got to burn tonight. When Dad was pissing me off, it was WC and the Mad Circles, Fuck My Daddy.
Wow. WC, bro.
Yeah. I loved it. I had 400 cassettes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so loved it. And I'd written a little bit with my friends in Canberra, but then it went to a whole nother level. In 98, we opened for Snoop Dogg when he came to Australia.
Yo.
It was a good time,
What was your name? What'd you call yourself?
I didn't call myself this. They just called me Paul.
What does that mean? Wait.
It was like the guy that was running it was like, it sounds like Jay-Z is saying pause in some of his songs. He's like, sounds like he's saying Paul, and that just kind of stuck. Up until that, I didn't have a name. It wasn't.
Right.
How are your skills? Is there video footage of this stuff or no?
I'm the only one that has the VHS footage of the Snoop concert, but my song is still on Spotify.
No.
Yeah.
What's the song called?
It's called Smokin' Hydro.
No fucking way, dude. For the listeners.
So I do the first 2 verses, and my friend Chris from the Cook Islands, he's an Islander kid, he does the last version. And I have to always say that when I've told people, because he drops the N-bomb at the end of the song. And I'm like, I don't want anyone thinking this is me. The whole song, white guy, I did not say that.
Okay, respect.
Yeah. So he's a brown Islander guy. I felt like he could say it. So.
Just to clarify for the listeners.
Yeah. If anyone listens to it, Smoking Hydro, Spotify.
So are you playing shows leading up to the Snoop? Obviously, you get a name out there for rhyming and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow,
we were doing fundraising to record EPs and things like that. So we're throwing our own concerts. We ran a hip-hop night at the local nightclub every Saturday called The Gig. Had a fat old time, but not a lot of money in white rappers in Australia in 1998.
Yeah.
And I'd quit the strip club to focus on the music.
But it seems like music was almost like kind of a saving point or in a way, or was it?
Not really.
No.
Because you're still in the streets.
There were no saving points.
Okay, all right.
The saving point was the army.
Okay.
Like I said, not a lot of money in it. There was probably 12 of us in the group. Like
a white Wu-Tang clan?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I was the only white one.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was like 2 Filipino dudes, a Malaysian chick, a Sri Lankan guy, a Latino American guy from New Jersey, a white American guy from Pasadena, my buddy John, who's Chilean, and then white.
Was there a name of the group?
It was named after the radio show, Flavors Radio Show, so it was FRS International.
Okay,
I like it.
That's crazy, bro.
It was good fun for a while, but just the financial constraints started taking hold, and the guy that was kind of running it, Jordan, he was like smoking more and more weed and becoming more unpredictable, and he started like becoming violent, and so I just dipped out. A couple of guys followed me as well, and I was working behind a bar in a restaurant, and I had 2 of my best friends from Canberra from school come up, and they were living with me as well. And a couple of years later, I was just thinking, is this all there is? You know, there's got to be more to life than this. I get up, I go to the restaurant, I go home, I go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, this fucking sucks. I hate it. And so I thought deep and hard about it, really sort of like put myself into that vulnerable position of looking at what life was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, my boss offered me a bar manager's position, and I looked at the bar manager, and he was this skinny, pale white dude smoking cigarettes, living in the suburbs. And I was like, no fucking way. And so I called my brothers, and they were both in artillery at that point in the army. And they said, hey, what do you think about me joining the army? And they laughed so hard. They're like, no fucking way. And they're like, look, it's pretty good. Like, you get paid to travel, you get paid to play sport, you get paid to hang out with your friends, we get to blow shit up. It's a pretty good life. But don't join infantry.
Wow. Okay.
It's too hard. We know you. It's too hard for you. You won't make it.
Damn.
So the next day I joined infantry.
Oh.
Fucking awesome. I love that.
Became a paratrooper.
So, whoa.
Wow, dude.
So once you were in, I mean,
yeah, they
Was
weren't
it
joking.
difficult?
It was fucking hard.
yeah, I was going to say,
It
like,
was bullshit hard.
right.
Not for the reasons that you would think. Like, physically, you know, there was no drinking, there was no smoking bongs, there was none of that stuff. So all of that swimming training came back to me after a couple of weeks, and I was like killing everyone at all the physical stuff, pack marching, the obstacle courses, the running, the push-ups, no worries.
Wow.
But like, I also don't hide my emotions very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, being told what to do.
Yeah.
How did that?
Well, like, I'd literally rebelled against discipline my whole life.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'd voluntarily surrounded myself with the most disciplined, crazy people on the planet.
Right.
And so there was a lot of like neck twitching and like the first morning we got there, they played this song called I Was Only 19. It's a song about Vietnam.
19.
Yeah, I was only 19. Song about Vietnam from Australia. And so first morning, all of us are laying in our bunks and stuff. You're hearing this song and you're feeling the vibe of the song. It's very emotional. And at the end of it, they open up with a machine gun in the hallway filled with blanks. And you just, like, your soul leaves your body. Like, it's,
Wow,
you're so terrified. And that kind of set the scene for the next 10 weeks. And so I wanted to run away like I always had. I wanted to get the fuck away from there as quick as possible, but that had never worked for me in the past. And so I thought, okay, I need a different tact. I need to change my perception of the situation that I'm in instead of trying to change my situation. Maybe I'm the problem. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
And so I can't run away because I'm taking the problem with me.
Yeah.
And so I tried to focus on the things that I did enjoy. I didn't like being in the hot ass Australian sun on the parade ground for hours, learning to march and do formations. But I like throwing grenades.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I like the physical fitness. I like shooting gun. I like shooting a machine gun. And so I try to focus on all of that good stuff. And eventually time passes and you just get through it.
Right.
And then you go off to infantry course, which is, you know, it's another step up. There's no girls there. It's just dudes teaching dudes how to be farting, spitting, swearing soldiers. And so I got through that. My fitness was like killing it at that point. And then I got shipped off to Sydney to be a paratrooper. And I stayed there till 2005.
You got to decide, or were they like, you should be a paratrooper?
That's a good
Put you
question.
in.
At the end of the training, they gave us 3 options that you wrote down on paper, and it was like, there's not a lot of options.
Okay.
You know, I didn't know much about the different battalions for infantry. They're all numbered. It was like 1 RAR. RAR stands for Royal Australian Regiment. 1 RAR, 2 RAR. They joined 2, so it's 5, 7 RAR, 6 RAR. 4 RAR. So basically each one has their own specifics. There's like mechanized, there's motorized, there's, you know, commandos, there's airborne. And so I chose 6 so I could go back to Brisbane to be near my friends. But then the company sergeant major came around and said, who here wants to jump out of a plane? You know, I'd never been accused of doing anything too smart. So I'm like, hell yeah. I put my hand in the air and he's like, congratulations, you're going to be a paratrooper. And I thought to myself, yeah, that sounds badass.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then,
doing
you're
that?
jumping out of a plane in the middle of the night with a 100-pound pack tied to you and you can't see the ground and you're just thinking this was a terrible choice.
Oh my God.
I can't
But
even
a lot of
imagine.
fun. I was very fortunate. I never got injured. You know, when the Army parachutes aren't like normal parachutes. There's no controls on them.
Yeah.
And some of them have holes in them to direct your travel. And you look up and it literally looks like someone's attacked your canopy with a cigarette. And you come in, it comes in at 4.6 to 6.4 meters per second. So that's what 4 meters is 12, like 3 4 is 12. So between 12 and 15 feet a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So you come in hard.
Yeah, hard.
Yeah. Fortunately, I never got injured. I loved it. I had a secret technique whereby I just assumed the position that you're trained to get into, and then I closed my eyes. That's my secret
That
technique.
was your secret?
Yeah. Close your eyes, take a big deep breath, and relax.
How many jumps do you think you've had?
Oh, yeah. It's fun.
Not that many. Probably 27.
Okay.
I've actually done more
quite a
free
few.
fall parachute jumps in the last 3 years than I did that. So I had to get my free fall parachuting license for a show that I shot about 3 years ago. And so I've done probably 60 jumps, 60, 70 free fall jumps now.
Wow. Do you remember your first jump with the military? How scared you were?
In training, yeah. They build you up slowly. You go from like single person out of one side of the door, no gear, nothing like that, to like the first battalion jump I did was the whole battalion, so like 400 dudes into the middle of the bush, in the middle of the night. So it's called full CE sim doors at night. So you've got both sides of the Hercules open, and then everyone has all of their gear attached to them, and you're literally just peeling out of both sides of the airplane. And there's probably 6 airplanes going all at once.
That's insane.
They have
dude.
this
like falling on top of people? Like
Kinda.
Yeah.
If you land and you get injured, they give you glow sticks. You crack a red glow stick if you're injured. And so I remember looking out of the window and going, "Oh, that's so nice. They've lit up the drop zone for us." And I was like, that's red Siloam." So we had this T-shirt made up after that exercise. It was called Exercise Tandem Thrust. We renamed it Exercise Anal Thrust. And the back of the T-shirt had the list of all of the injuries. It was like 5 broken backs, 36 broken ankles. But Battalion HQ banned that T-shirt very quickly. It became a collector's item if you could get it.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
What was your eating like back then? Were you a heavy meat eater and stuff too, or no?
Yeah. Eat basically anything they put out. I learned very quickly, become friends with the medics and the cooks. You know, because you're allowed to, they'll give you extra food. Like, it's kind of like prison, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was great friends with the cook, so I was allowed to have 2 poached eggs, 2 pieces of bacon, whereas everyone else was only allowed to have 1. I buy them beers on the weekend, and they look after you. So I was just, I was eating whatever I could get my hands on, so I could, because we were burning so much energy.
Sure.
But I had no idea about nutrition whatsoever, except don't eat junk food. And
and you're pretty great shape at that point too.
Yeah, it was really good shape. I was smoking at that point though, especially out in the field, because you don't have any creature comforts, and so that cigarette when you're cold and hungry and dirty and smelly is like that one little gift that you've got.
Yeah.
And then going out on the weekends, we get shit. There's a big culture of drinking in the Australian military. And so every weekend was going out and getting absolutely shit-lockered. And I'd probably smoke a packet of cigarettes on the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So it was good because I was still young and training every day, but it could have been immensely better.
Yeah. And how long are you in there for?
I joined November 2000, and I switched to the Navy in October, I think it was October or August 2005.
Why did you want to switch to the Navy?
I just got bored. I was sick of being dirty and smelly, and I didn't want to get promoted. I never saw my career being in the Army. I didn't want to get promoted, and I was supposed to go to Iraq, and they cancelled my trip 4 days before I was supposed to leave. And I was just like, that was all I wanted to do. I wanted to do my job for real. Enough of this training. Let's go do the job. And they cancelled it, and I was like, that just crushed my motivation to be in the Army anymore. And my work ethic slipped, and I didn't want to do it anymore. Then I discovered these dudes called the clearance divers.
The bomb disposal divers?
Yeah, it's a lot broader than that. But that's one of the roles. And they're like, no one looks at these guys directly, just sort of goes, oh shit, look, there's those guys. And I was like, why can't I be one of those guys?
Right.
I was wondering what's stopping me from being someone in my industry that other people look up to? What's so special about them? I want to be that. And so I was like, fuck it, I'll give it a go. Like, what have I got to lose? And so I went and tried out. I got signed on to the first phase of the course, which is ships divers. It's a 3-week course where you learn to scuba dive, military scuba dive, and then also search seabeds and hulls of ships for bombs. So
pretty a great swimmer, so that already.
Yeah.
You don't really need to swim.
Okay.
No, you don't need to be a great swimmer because it's all diving. It's totally different. And learning. I'd never scuba dived in my life. I'd also never tried to search for bombs, really. So it was a pretty steep learning curve, plus trying to learn to be in the Navy. And I passed that course by the skin of my teeth. And then I went back to the Army base for a while, waiting for the selection course to go on to training to become a clearance diver. And so finally that came around. It took about 12 months of just deep breathing and waiting and trying to train while still going out bush. And then I got my chance to go on selection, and it's renownedly hard. It's 10 days of just physical, mental, and emotional anguish. And I ended up passing that. So I dropped about 15 pounds, 70% of my course quit. Most of those guys quit on the first day.
Oh, my first day.
Yeah, they just crush you. And they just, like.
Did you feel like you had something to prove to your family at that point? You were going so hard, like your brothers didn't think you should do the thing in the first place?
Literally hadn't talked to my family in years.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really care. My youngest brother, because his artillery unit was attached to my airborne unit. Okay. So I'd see a bit of him. He was a bit of a. I don't really want to get him in trouble.
No, that's all good.
But basically, when I turned up to the Army battalion and I was walking to the mess to get lunch one day, this kid saw my name bar, de Gelder, and he looked at me and he goes, "Are you Big Johnny?" And I'm a little confused because my brother's name's Sean. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he looks scared because my brother was so bad that if I was the older brother, I must be absolutely way. So he's like, oh my God, it's so good to meet you. I'm like, what the fuck is Sean getting himself into?
Wow.
I found it out later, and it wasn't all bad. Some of it was good, but whew. He made a name for himself. Now, basically, at some point, everyone knew a de Gelder in the Australian military because my sister then joined as well.
Oh,
so there was 4 of us floating around the country. She's my hero. She's an Iraq, Afghanistan veteran.
That's amazing.
Yeah, joined as an enlisted medic. Now she's an officer nurse. Yeah, she's awesome.
That's so cool.
Happy birthday, Jackie. It was her birthday the other day. And so I passed selection course. Then you go on to 37 weeks of training to learn to be a clearance diver. And that's everything from learning to drive the jet boats, the dive boats, maritime tactical operations. So doing diving in the middle of the night on oxygen rebreathers, fast roping onto moving platforms, underwater mine disposal, land-based explosive ordnance disposal, underwater hard hat diving on like underwater tools like chainsaws, welding, explosive tools. Yeah, it was a broad role. It was really cool. And then you can also go off and join what's called TAG, which is the Tactical Assault Group, which then puts you into the Special Forces realm where you're working with the commandos doing the domestic counterterrorism, basically wearing gas masks, black uniforms, kicking indoors, killing terrorists.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You know a lot. You do a lot.
It definitely shitted on being an infantry soldier.
I mean, we'll get to this moment later, but when you're doing all this diving and stuff, do you see any sharks out there? Do you see any?
I saw one harmless shark that got caught in our lines that were.
That was it the whole time.
That was it.
We
dove down, unwrapped it, set it free, and that was it. That's all I'd seen.
Wow.
But we get bumped in the middle of the night because a lot of the diving we do is in super murky water where you can't even see your hand in front of your face, or it's at night where you can't see shit.
Yeah.
I remember diving one night doing a reconnaissance mission, and I look across to me, and I can't see my body at all. But I can see the luminescent algae that is hitting his body. So I can see this bright green outline of his body in bioluminescent algae,
that
which
shit's
was
creepy.
beautiful.
It was beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. But then, something bumps you in the middle of the night, and you're like, oh, it's just a stick.
You didn't want to think about it, yeah.
Definitely wasn't a crocodile. Definitely wasn't a sea snake. Australia's got the deadliest octopus in the world, 2 of the deadliest jellyfish in the world, deadly sea snakes, sharks,
everything.
Everything.
Yeah, so how long are you doing the Navy stuff until like 2009 when the actual thing happens to you and you're diving?
From mid-2005 to February 2009. And then that February, I turned up to work doing a simple job. It was nothing special. It was like classified as a counter-terrorism exercise, but literally just swimming from point A to point B in the harbour right next to the Navy base. And this is a place where we've worked for decades, doing training, fixing ships, all that sort of stuff.
And you're pretty satisfied with what the course that you've taken so far, like doing?
I was, but they also would try. I got to the point where they were trying to promote me.
Right.
And I didn't want to get promoted because if you get promoted, then you stop diving, then you've got to supervise the dives. Then you're doing paperwork and, it's only like less diving, less action from there on up. And so I loved doing my job. I just wanted to dive and play with explosives and go and have fun with the boys on exercise and that. So,
and you had no fears of the ocean, the sharks, or nothing?
Terrified of sharks.
Okay.
Every single time I got in the water.
Okay. Okay.
My buddies would fucking pin pictures of great white sharks on my locker and say, we saw that in the harbour the other day, just to mess with me.
Okay.
So
this is something always on your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ever since, dude, I was a good swimmer because every time I was in the pool in a race, a shark was chasing me.
Okay.
That was your motivation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. If it wasn't a shark, it was, that movie that came out after Jaws, Piranha.
Oh, yeah.
Because piranhas got in the pool, so then there was piranhas chasing me. You're like,
okay, so
no one's going to beat you when piranhas are chasing you.
So this is actual fear of yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have a mission, so I put the fears to the back of my mind, and I just focus all of my mental acuity on the job at hand. I've got bombs and buddies and tools and all that shit to worry about, so just don't worry about the sharks.
So this is a normal day. It's daytime.
Morning, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, overcast. So February is like the hottest month in Australia usually. But it was overcast, and I rolled over the edge of the Zodiac we were in, me and 3 of my teammates. One of the guys was still asleep in the bottom of the boat because he'd been out drinking all night. So and we had the new guy, and I just pulled the new guy out of the water and thought I'd give him a break, and I rolled over and I start swimming from, on the surface on my back, black wetsuit, black fins, and within about 5 minutes, I just get this huge thunk in my leg, and I don't think too much of it. Didn't really hurt, and I just think maybe the guys got too close in the boat. My ears are full of water. I can't hear it, or it was a log. I don't know.
You couldn't see anything.
Well, I was looking in the other direction, so I was on my back, but I was making sure that I was still headed towards the bow of the warship I was supposed to be going to. So I wasn't looking when it hit me.
Okay.
And then I feel it, and I turn around, and there's just this massive gray head and eye staring at me.
Dude.
And I don't, my brain can't process it.
Right.
I've never seen it before.
Right.
So it's kind of like, when you see something like that for the first time, your brain is like...
You're in shock.
Right.
It's like your brain's got Tourette's. Fuck, shit, shark.
So now it's just looking at you and it's on you.
Yeah. And so instantly I think I've seen Shark Week. I've seen The Crocodile Hunter. Go for the eyeball. So I can't move my arm though. And I'm like, why won't my arm move?
Dude.
And I look down and I can see the teeth embedded into my wrist. And every time I pull my arm, I can see the skin starting to tear. And I can see the teeth all along my thigh, teeth embedded into my wetsuit. And so I think left hand, and I reach over, but because it's got me by the back of the leg, I can't, the angle is just weird, I can't reach the eye. So I grab the nose instead, and I'm trying to push that off me, but that just pushes the teeth of the lower jaw deeper into the other side of my leg. And so the last thing I think of is punching in the nose.
Right.
And this is all in the blink of an eye. This is like a second all this is happening. And you can watch it. It's on YouTube. You can actually watch me getting eaten.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It was being filmed for the exercise, and then 60 Minutes did a show on it, and they got the footage.
Oh my God. All right.
So it lasts about 8 seconds from go to woe.
So you punch him?
No. As soon as I tried to, I cocked back. As soon as I tried to punch it, it started shaking me. And the pain was so incredible that every single ounce of fight went out of me. And it took me underwater.
Yeah.
Just shook me like a rag doll. Like, this is a 9 to 10 foot bull shark, made of muscle in its element, and it took me underwater. And I'm upside down basically. You can see my fins thrashing on the top of the water.
It's horrifying.
My head comes
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
I take a breath. I go back down, and it just keeps shaking the shit out of me.
So it's trying to bring you under. Drag you
It was
down?
just shaking me,
Right.
like trying to get the flesh out of my body, and I'm drowning. I'm in agony, and I remember thinking to myself, "I'm not going home today.
Right.
I'm going to die right now." And it was like everything just went into hyperdrive, like my whole brain and thought process and everything. And I remember thinking, "Are you ready to die?" And I looked back on everything, all those stories that I just told you, to who I had become and all of the amazing things that I'd done. And I thought, well, I've lived more great lives now than I probably deserve. And I have absolutely no regrets because I turned everything around.
Yeah, 100%.
So if I'm going to die, then I'm ready to go. And I let go, waiting for death. And I felt calm. And I felt like this wasn't the end. I feel like this is just at the beginning of another adventure. And all of a sudden, the shark's teeth met in the middle of my leg, ripped off my hand. And because my wetsuit made me buoyant and I wasn't attached to the shark anymore, I popped to the surface. And air instantly went into my lungs. The shark thrashed its tail, like swimming away, and the water splashed me in the face. And I realized, fuck, I'm not dead. And I saw my safety boat.
Shit.
I saw my safety boat, and I thought, I got to get out of here before another shark comes back. Because I'm like, it's going to smell. There's got to be blood in the water.
Yeah.
You know, another shark, that shark. So I start swimming, and I take a stroke, and my right arm comes out of the water, and my arm ends at the end of my wetsuit, and I got no hand. And so my medical training kicks in, and I keep that arm out of the water above my heart to try and stem some of the bleeding, not knowing how bad my leg was, and that I was actually swimming through a pool of my own blood with one hand and one leg back to the safety boat. And
Dude.
Yeah, it was a big day at work.
This is unreal.
Yeah.
Because you see a million movies and this shit happens. You know what I mean? Like, so what are the other guys doing in the bar? Are they freaking out? They scream like.
Well, the guy asleep hungover wakes up.
Okay.
to the worst scene he could possibly imagine.
But are there other guys on the boat too, like coming to you, or is
Yeah, so I was the only one in the water. We were the only ones really operating in that area. So it was just my 3 teammates in that little inflatable boat, and they saw the thrashing and the fins, so they're gunning it towards me as well. But they're like 400 or 500 feet away. So it's taking them time to get to me while I'm swimming extremely slowly with one hand and one leg. They finally get to me. They grab me and they pull me into the boat.
I can imagine them pulling you up and seeing what you look like. And
my buddy said I looked like I'd been bitten in half because I was like, I was just my body and my legs were at some weird, impossible angle. Right. And he's like, what the hell? He was worried that they were going to pull me in and part of my body was going to fall away. Yeah. And so he worked it so some of the 3 of them together lifted me out of the water as one entire piece. They put me in the bottom of the boat. I passed out. I was like, I'm safe. Thank God, and passed out. Tomo, my little Papua New Guinean buddy, decides that I'm going into cardiac arrest, and the only way to wake me back up is start stimulating my heart by, we call it a series of short, sharp jabs into the heart area. And it works, and I wake up. And I look over, and my hand's ripped apart, freshly bitten off by a shark. And I look up, and Tomo's beating the shit out of me. And I just think, today sucks. I get my priorities in order, and I'm like, okay, Tomo, can you make sure someone looks after my motorbike? I don't think I'm riding home today. And he just shakes his head at me and goes, shut the fuck up, Paul. You're dying. Just don't die, okay?
Right.
So I stay awake through everything, thinking that if I close my eyes at all, if I can't see Tomo, if I can't hear him, then I'm going to die. And so all I do is focus on cracking jokes and trying to stay alive while I'm bleeding out in the boat.
And how long is that mission from that moment to the hospital, you think?
Well, the problem was that the wharf, the big concrete wharf at the Navy base, was 10 foot high. And so getting me from that inflatable to the wharf was a problem. They found a pontoon, a big floating work deck that they could get me onto there, but then they couldn't get me up onto the wharf. And so my chief, who was in charge of the day, and all the scientists that were there conducting the experiment, they ran off and found a work site, got some workmen to come over, and they basically built a ramp of sorts to get me 10 foot up from the pontoon up to there. So that probably took 10 minutes at least.
Wow.
Then it took another 10, 15 for the paramedics to get there, in which time I was dying. The boat was an inch deep in my blood. I'd severed an artery. The new guy that I pulled out of the water, he actually had to spend 10 minutes with his hand inside my leg, pinching closed an artery. So, yeah.
Holy shit.
So pretty big day for everyone.
Yeah, for him too.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And then luckily the hospital was only 10 minutes up the road. So I got wheeled into emergency surgery. I'm on the gurney.
You're awake the whole time.
Yeah. I nearly died in the ambulance because I'd lost so much blood I couldn't breathe. And so the paramedic had to coach me through breathing exercises, just take tiny little breaths. And then when I got enough energy, take one big breath, flood your body with oxygen, then go back to... And I was just fading. And the drugs kicked in eventually. They couldn't give me much because my blood pressure was so low. And I'm getting wheeled into emergency surgery straight from the ambulance. And the doctor's running alongside me. And I'm like, hey, doc, I just started surfing. I'll buy you a case of beer if you save my leg. It's a military thing. Every favor you do, you help someone move, case of beer.
Okay.
You drive them home drunk, case of beer, that sort of thing. So I was like, doc, case of beer if you save my leg.
Were you so in shock to even be scared at that point, or just you trying to just...
I was just trying to tough it out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know how bad my leg was at that point. I had no idea. When I got into the boat, I wanted to look at my leg, but I knew that if it was horrific, I would go into shock and I'd die. Yeah. And so I just didn't look. So the training saved me. The training of myself, the training of my teammates, that laser-like focus, the fact that I was so incredibly fit. I ran a race for the Navy over 100 kilometers up and down the biggest mountains in Tasmania, and I only did 2 15-kilometer warm-up runs for that, and I beat everyone on my team.
Wow.
So I was like, my body was just a machine. So that everything came into play to help me stay alive. And through the worst day of my life has come the greatest blessings.
Yeah. How long are you in the hospital for?
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
Yeah. I had the rest of my leg for a week, but the shark had removed my entire hamstring and 25 centimeters of the sciatic nerve. And so not only could I not move it, I couldn't feel it, and I was never going to be again. And so the doctor break it down for me, and he said, look, you can keep the leg and it'll be non-functional and life will suck, or we can remove the rest of it and have you on a prosthetic. And so I decided that route. I didn't want to lug this unfeeling lump of wood around me. I just wanted to, at that point, I just wanted to get on with life. Like I'd been awake for 4 days, mulling everything over, talking to the nurses, talking to the doctors. I'm like, I just want to get on with life. And so we took that off, and then 2 days later, I was training in my bed.
Wow.
Yeah. Because my greatest fear was I was going to lose my career. Not because I'm hard as nails or anything that I was training. It was just because I was terrified of losing my career, and I couldn't lay there overthinking the situation, being a victim. I needed to take some tiny little bit of control over that. And I'm like, okay, well, if I start training now, then hopefully I can fulfill this impossible dream of keeping my career and going back to work. Yeah. So from that point on, 2 days after having the leg chopped off, all I did was train and train and train and train and train. Often cry myself to sleep.
Man.
Is your whole family there at that point too? Do they come out?
Yeah, literally. Okay. I'd been living in Sydney for 9 years.
Yeah.
No one had come to visit me. My mum would come up to Sydney to visit a boyfriend and not tell me she was in town.
Oh my God.
It took me nearly getting killed for not just them, like all of my friends from all around the country had flown in. There was, because the Navy hospital was getting fixed up at that point, the Navy had a wing in the St. Vincent's, the civilian hospital. There was no waiting rooms or anything like that. So it was like 30 or 40 people milling around the elevators every single day. Some of them went every day and didn't, for a week, and didn't get in to see me because they were rationing who could see me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing.
So
was this like all over the news or anything like that?
It was huge. Every station, it was on news around the world. There was no Navy diver had ever been attacked like that. No one had been attacked.
How old were you at that time?
I was 31. I was just about to turn 31.
And no attacks in that area either, right?
Not for 40, 50 years before that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, so it was really big news. I didn't know much about that at that point. I was on morphine and ketamine all at once. I had this bulb of ketamine dripping K into my body the whole time, and I was hitting that. My buddy Hutto would come in and he'd sneak a bottle of beer in, and he'd have a beer and I'd have a shot of morphine.
So you, fuck man. So you lose your leg, but then how soon after? What about your arm?
My hand was already gone.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, there's photos of it. It was just unsavable.
Right.
So that was instantly gone. Leg was later. Had a lot of problems with the leg after the surgery because they couldn't manage the pain, and probably the worst 20 hours of my life was after that, where they could not manage the pain. It was indescribable. They'd taken me out of my private corner of the hospital where it was quiet and put me into general population area, and I had a curtain around me, and I could hear everyone having visitors and talking. There was a guy sounded like he was dying in the bed next to me. I couldn't see. I'm in a K-hole in agony, crying for 20 hours, begging to die. And
holy fuck, dude.
It got so bad I begged my mum to find me a gun so I could kill myself. The worst. I would not wish this feeling on another human soul. Just 1 hour, 2 hour, 5, 20 hours rolling from side to side in my bed, crying my eyes out, wishing that the shark had killed me.
And you can't explain it to us because we've never been bit by a shark. You know what I'm saying? We can't understand what he's... It's crazy,
it's
man.
People did it hurt? And I didn't really get that for a while. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe they think, the adrenaline and all that. I'm like, roll up your trouser leg and go kick that wooden coffee table with your shin as hard as you possibly can, and then times it by 1 million. That's how much it hurts.
So you remember the final drug that they used to get the pain to go away, or just?
It eventually. I think someone told me once that when they oversubscribe or they use a combination, or you become used to something, then it can actually increase the pain.
Yeah.
It cancels it out. So I think that's what happened. They never really explained it to me. Mum said she got in a lot of trouble because she threatened to run the nurses over at one point if they didn't take care of the pain.
Right.
Wow.
But eventually it did go away. And that was when I was like, okay, laying in my hospital bed thinking I've got to do something here. And that's when I started training. I was like, there was nothing, I couldn't go to the toilet by myself. Like I was on a bedpan and I looked around and I saw the bar above my bed with the little handle you used to pull yourself up to eat. And so I just started doing chin-ups with my one hand on that to try and get some blood pumping. Just feel like you're doing something. And then we tied TheraBands to the bars all around the bed. My mates were awesome. They brought in like proteins and weights and snack foods, and I sweet talked the nurses. You know, everyone was bringing me flowers and chocolates, except I'm lactose intolerant and I get allergies. And so I gave the nurses all of my chocolates and flowers, and they gave me double rations.
Wow, I like that.
I'd lost, 10 pounds in 10 seconds. This is not a weight loss regime I would recommend, but I needed to keep my body fueled. I needed to keep my mind active, so I read constantly. I used the internet as my guiding light, watching YouTube videos of Paralympians, dudes with no hands climbing mountains. Like there was so much information there. It started to buoy me. I'm like, okay, this is real. This is what it is. I can either just crumble into a heap about it, or I can do what the military's trained me to do. Dust myself up, get off, and make the best of the situation I've been dealt. And so I used all of those incredible people to dispel my fear as to what was next. Like, okay, I've already been in the army. I've already become a clearance diver. If these people can do this, then there's no reason I can't.
Yeah.
And I knew that the military was going to pay for all my prosthetics and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, let's see where's the best Butte Gucci prosthetics from.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So now I'm like,
searching shit. Yeah.
I got two $200,000 legs. I've got $90,000 robot hands. I've got 2 snowboarding legs, 2 diving legs, weightlifting arm. I still snowboard. I parachute. Like I've got everything I need. One day, my only request is one day they come up with the limbs that just do it all, so I don't have to keep changing.
Yeah.
My luggage gets so heavy.
And you have the hook too, right?
I got a steel hook, like a thick steel hook.
And what is that for?
That's for pulling exercises. I use it for diving. I use it for parachuting.
Yeah, you're probably more than ever. You're so more active. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I just had to find ways to fill holes. Like I hate running now. I don't like the blade. It hurts. It rubs my skin off. And if I try and push it, it's not like I can build calluses on the inside of my groin. So like I try and push it, and then I've rubbed all the skin off, and I can't walk properly for 3 days. That's just not worth it to me to try and get better at running. So I fill that hole with other things. I've just started snowboarding. I'm really, really good at it, and so now I'm go snowboarding. When's the Paralympics?
What about skateboarding?
Skateboarding, it's too dangerous.
Okay.
The snow is softer.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want to. I used to be a skater.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. You talked about the Caballero board earlier. Yeah.
Before I was a rapper, I was a skater. I loved it.
Street skater?
I did a little bit of mini ramp stuff.
Oh shit, yeah, me too.
I was never like really good at any of that stuff, but it wasn't the point. I just loved it.
Best,
right. Yeah, I love the mini ramp. I love that was just after Back to the Future had come out too. So me and my friends, we're 12, 13, and we're like stopping cars at the roundabout. 2 of us asking for the time while 2 of us jump on the back and get a tow down the street.
When did like a plant-based lifestyle come into play?
That was 2014, I think. I knew nothing about it.
Right.
Literally, I didn't even know what a vegan was. I'm not even sure I'd heard that word before. And I got a show to host. It was originally for Xbox when they were going to do original programming, but it ended up, because they didn't do that, it ended up on Nat Geo. But I was hosting my first pilot for a series called Fearless.
Yeah. On National Geographic, correct?
Yeah. And I was
Fearless.
I was going to embed with all of these groups and individuals around the world who risk their lives to make the world a better place.
Right.
So it was.
So there must have been a lot of people coming at you, knowing your story, and just like, were you saying like, hey, there's some opportunities that are coming about?
Not really.
No.
after the attack, all I wanted to do was get back to work. So this didn't happen till later. So this is years later. Like all I wanted to do was go back to work, and I proved to the Navy that I could do that. I went back as an instructor for 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Turns out I hate teaching people to do things. Hated it. Plus the hours were like 6 a.m. to 2 in the morning for 2 weeks straight. And so I'm dying. I'm killing myself with these hours on my prosthetic, trying to prove to the Navy I can do it, getting no sleep, no recovery. I'm drinking more. I'm turning angry. And I'm like, this is not what I fought to stay alive to do. And so I ended up, like, I was getting offers to do speaking.
Okay.
But
I was going to ask you, people must be hitting you up for interviews and television, all that stuff. You're hearing your story.
The only thing I was more afraid of than sharks.
Okay.
Public speaking.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I literally, when I was 19, I tried to get my shit together. I went to TAFE and tried to do an IT course. And halfway through that course, we had to public speak in front of the class. I quit that course and never went back.
Okay.
So, I had companies contacting me when I was still in the Navy to go and talk about my experience because my recovery was so fast and amazing. And, I had such a good mindset. I never blamed the sharks. So people wanted to hear about that. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. And then Cancer Camp for Kids called Canteen asked me to speak at a little kids camp, and I was like, you got me. I was like, I can't say no to kids with cancer, you little buggers. So I went and did that. I remember walking into the room, my whole body was shaking, and I'm like, you play with bombs, you little bitch. Like, you jump out of planes, like, you can do this. And I was terrified of these 20 children, and I went in. And I just told some stories, and I made them laugh, and I made them forget that they'd grown up in hospitals, and that after this they were going back to the hospital. And we had a good time, and I walked out of that room on top of the world, and I thought to myself, maybe I can do that. And so I started taking a couple of jobs here and there, and it just kept growing and growing and growing.
Okay.
To the point where I was like, I don't want to be in the Navy anymore. I don't like it.
Right.
And I started doing that. And I was like, this is terrifying. Leaving my security blanket, a guaranteed paycheck, a guaranteed job to go. How long am I this going to be the flavor of the month? How long can I speak for? Like, I'm maybe a year, maybe 2 years if I push it. And then Shark Week came along, and they asked me to do a show, and I was like, okay. But also, and then I'm like, okay, how long is this going to last? I need some other plans here, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this for. I'm not that interesting. I'm not that cool. Like, I need to have something else going on, but I didn't have anything. And so I just threw everything I had into these 2 new jobs. And 2023, I'm still doing both of them, and I get to live in LA. I get to travel around America. Man. I get paid to travel the world. Like next week, I'm going to the Bahamas to go and film tiger sharks and hammers and bulls and all that sort of stuff. So it's really been an incredible journey.
Right.
It's so incredible. And do you remember the first time going back into the ocean?
Yeah, that wasn't a problem.
Okay.
Not at all. By that stage, I'd been out of the water for 3 months.
And you still have that shark fear still?
No.
Wow.
There was literally, like, take it from someone who's nearly died in the most violent, terrifying, and horrific of ways.
Yeah.
Death is not scary when you're there.
Right.
You know what's scary? Having regrets before you die.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Because,
people.
There was a nurse that actually wrote a book about it as well.
Right,
right. She was a hospice nurse, and she interviewed all these people, or didn't interview them, but talked to them as they're dying. And she said the same thing. And I'm like, it's 100% true. Like I was talking about before, I'm like, I've made a difference in my life. I've dragged myself up out all the shit I did to serving, having a great life, no regrets. And so death is not scary, but going to your death with missed opportunities, with regrets, with anger, sadness, all that stuff in your heart, that is what people should be afraid of, because that's all you're going to have before you die.
It's amazing.
So I've got nothing left to be afraid of. The only thing that scares me now is snowboarding, like, because I'm just learning, but I'm also a psychopath, and so I'm trying to go as fast as humanly possible, down this snowy hill on a stick, and there's a cliff over there, and there's a cliff over there, and there's no fences, and I don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
So, I broke my fiance's mum's arm
Are you
What?
serious?
Yeah, a month ago
From snowboarding?
from snowboarding.
No
Because
way.
I didn't know how to stop,
Smashed
and
into her?
I didn't even like smash into her hard. Like I was slowing down, but she was on skis standing sideways, and I just kind of slid in and hit her, and she fell directly on her arm,
no.
we had to get her take snowmobiled off the mountain.
Oh,
my
my God.
yeah,
Lord.
yeah, it was so bad. But now I have this really funny joke for the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rhiannon's mum didn't think I was very funny, so we went snowboarding, and I broke her humerus.
That's amazing.
Such a dad joke.
I'm
you-
sorry.
you-
I'm sorry. I just had to bring it back to plant-based.
I do, but
just so we-
before that, I
Oh,
just
yeah,
want to say
sorry.
it's cool
Okay.
that you're Will Smith shark diving mentor
Yeah, I've had
on
the
his bucket list series.
I've had the opportunity
Sick,
to
right?
teach
Yeah.
Will Smith. I got to
Mike
teach
Tyson.
Ronda Rousey how to hand feed bull sharks in Fiji. The most scared of them all, Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Threw up before or after every dive.
I want to read something. He scares me. He scares me because I see in his eyes he has no fear. He's a bad motherfucker. That's a Mike Tyson quote about him, too. That's so hard. This is Mike Tyson said about you because Mike Tyson's a fucking badass, too.
Yeah.
Different world, so yeah.
Yeah. I got along really well with Mike. He's very, very quiet until you get him talking about something he's interested in, like, spirituality or history, things like that. He's really interested in. So we hit it off really well. And he had his son with him for a part of it. And he's a really good dad. He is so patient with him, teaching him how to be a man and that sort of stuff. And I know everyone has their sordid pasts, but you can tell that he's really tried to improve himself.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I had a great time with him, and we shot a 2-hour movie in 4 days with a bunch of comedians. So
really?
Adam Devine, Joel McHale, Rob Riggle, Anthony Anderson, Damon Wayans Jr.
Try flexing in front of this guy. Man.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And so, having 5 comedians that are untrained and trying to keep them together and not get eaten by sharks was probably one of the most challenging things to do. I'd be like, all right, guys, the most important thing is we stay together. They're like, yep. But we get into the water and they just go, pew, all different directions. Like, you fuckers.
Was Tyson scared of the sharks?
Terrified.
Mike
Plus,
Tyson.
he was a terrible diver.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't even supposed to be in the water for the show. Like, I had to teach him in the pool. We had this big animatronic shark down in Orange County. And so we brought them both in the water. We start down the shallow end, and we have to move out to the deep end. And apparently he'd done a diving course, but he's moving from the shallow end to the deep end without kicking his fins at all. And he's like dog paddling through the water. And then he gets to the deep end. He can't control his balance. He's falling over backwards. I got to pick him up. He can't rest on his knees because his legs are too sore. He burns out after 10 minutes, and he can't do anything. And so they've already told me that I'm not going to dive. I'm going to be in the Bahamas. I'm going to be the guy on the boat watching the footage, explaining what's going on to the audience. And I was really pissed off about that. I'm not going to get to go diving in the Bahamas with Mike Tyson. And after I saw that, I was thinking to myself, thank God I am not diving with this guy because he's going to get killed. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for anyone that's diving with this dude.
Man.
We turn up to the Bahamas and they're like, production goes, Paul, you're on every dive.
Oh, shit.
They're like, we need you to take care of Mike. Don't let him die. I'm like, oh, God. So we get down there and he's so scared, he tries to grab everything that comes near him.
That would totally be
We've got
me.
him head to toe chainmail so nothing can bite him, but his face isn't chainmail. He's just got the mask. I'm like, he's going to lose a face. He's going to get his... it was bad. It was nothing but bad. But I eventually calmed him down, got him relaxed, put him on the bottom, and it turned into a pretty good show, showing how even the most scary... what they used to call him? The scariest man on the planet, the baddest man on the planet, showing how someone like that can be afraid so badly of something and then also overcome it by facing that fear head on and learning, the old adage, knowledge dispels fear. To show that transition and that story and that, how he did it was really quite amazing.
It'd be crazy to see Mike Tyson punch a shark.
Oh, my God.
I want to see anyone punch a shark.
Yeah, I don't want it.
Yeah. That's what happened with Ronda Rousey as well. Like, somehow in Fiji, they thought that Ronda Rousey had come out to fight a shark, and there was like articles about it coming out. Ronda Rousey's going to punch a shark, and all the locals were upset. I'm like, no, she's not going to punch any sharks. You're crazy. as if we'd allow that. But that wasn't scary. The scariest part was her husband. Her husband's a UFC fighter. He's 6'8", Travis Brown. And I've become really good friends with the both of them over the years. But it wasn't the sharks. Partially it was Ronda hand feeding the bull shark and getting a limb torn off. But it was her husband on the boat that looked at me and said, "If my wife don't come back on this boat, ain't none of y'all coming back on this boat."
Wow.
Like, yes, sir.
I know we can get back to the veganism stuff too, but I know you did you with like an anti-poaching team too in Africa.
Yeah,
some rangers.
So that's where the plant-based vegan life came in, because I was there shooting that documentary with Damien Mander, and I spent 2 weeks learning how they operate as a team, hunting poachers. And so one night at Damo's house, I saw him eating from a separate pot. And I'm thinking, oh, this cocky little bugger, he's saving the good meat for himself and giving the rangers the shit meat. And so I called him out on it, and it was the reverse. He's like, well, I don't eat meat. The rangers eat meat. I'm like, what do you mean you don't eat meat? He's like, well, I'm vegan. I'm like, what's that? He's like, well, I choose not to eat meat. I'm like, what are you talking about, Damo? He's like, look, I dedicated my life to saving animals, and then I was coming home and I was eating an animal, and it made me feel like a hypocrite. And that struck a chord with me, because all of the worst leaders I ever had in the military were always hypocrites. It was always do as I say, not do as I do. Yeah. And so I've always strove to be a lead by example sort of person. Never ask, even when I was training recruits in the Navy, when I was missing my limbs and I had prosthetics, I would, if they screw up in training, it's 50 push-ups. And so that can accrue to 1,200 push-ups. And if you don't do them by midnight, they double. And so I took it to the point where if they had to do them, then I would do them as well, to show them that this is a good leader. Yeah. And so I would do the 1,200 push-ups with them and whatever. And so I always strive to be that guy. And I just thought, okay, this is amazing. I need to, if Damo can do it,
right,
and he can still be this big weapon of a human being, and he literally stands by what he says and represents, and I want to be that guy too. So I went, okay, I'm going vegan. I went back to Bondi, and I lasted 2 days.
Just straight vegan, not vegetarian, nothing.
Bro, I didn't know any in-betweens. I didn't even know what I was supposed to eat. Oh my God. I was like, I'm fucking hungry.
2 days.
2 days. And so I put it on the back burner for a while, and then people that I respect kept popping up in the world. My buddy Ian Norrington, who's good friends with John Joseph. That's how I became friends with John. Damo, obviously. And then people around me kept popping up. And I firmly believe when the universe is talking to you, it's for a very good reason. And you need to listen. Like they're injecting things into your life so that you'll pay attention to them. And so I eventually thought, okay, I need to pay attention to this. And so I thought, I'll try again, and I'll just do it slowly. And so firstly, I used to eat a lot of kangaroo. I stopped eating kangaroo.
Wow. God.
And then it was piece by piece by piece over a series of 6 months. And, the last vestige of protein was eggs. Okay. And so I just, every time I would take something away, I'd try and replace it with 3 other things, which was really good because I never ate vegetables. I thought you had to eat all the chicken breasts in the world to get big and strong and muscles. And like I was fit, but I was never big whatsoever. Yeah. And so I was terrified, but I just ate more, and I just make these huge big bowls of spaghetti, spaghetti tofu and, whatever I could find at that point. And I didn't get all of those benefits that people talk about. They say, oh, I slept better. I have sleep apnea, so I never sleep well. I have like a little blue mouthpiece that I wear that helps. But people say, I've had more energy. I didn't have more energy. Yeah. But what I did notice was I didn't get injuries. I didn't have an injury for 4 years after that, like nothing. And I used to get them all the time from all my injuries in the military. Elbows would blow out, my tendonitis, my back, my shoulders. I didn't have a single injury that would like took me out of the game for 4 years. And if I did, it healed up within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so that blew me away. And I just loved it. And I felt like I can now honestly represent what I do for a living, which is, working with Shark Week, working with Discovery Channel, teaching people about this incredible animal that I've grown to love and respect, and why it's so important that we need to save it. And so now I can talk about not eating and destroying the ocean. What is the most destructive practice towards our ocean? Commercial fishing.
Yes.
Okay, so now I can talk about saving the oceans because I am not a part of that destruction.
Right.
And it's a very, very hard lesson for people to hear. And it sucks. I know. I grew up spearfishing with my grandfather.
Wow.
I love seafood. I love it.
Okay.
If I had to give up anything, it wouldn't be seafood.
Okay.
But that was the thing that I had to give up, mostly because that was where my existence was, in the ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see the decimation. My friends tell me stories of it when they're traveling and filming as well. And it's horrific. It's horrible. And for anyone who has seen Seaspiracy,
I was going to say that Seaspiracy. It's heavy.
yeah, they'll see it too. And if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. It's really quite remarkable how destructive commercial fishing is on our oceans.
It is, because in the media they're like, use paper straws, and it's the straws and the plastic cups and all that. But when we watch that documentary, it's like it has nothing to do with that.
It's all fishing nets.
It's so crazy how that is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
It's
90%
definitely
of
interesting.
something like 80-90% of all trash in the ocean is discarded fishing gear.
I definitely realized that from going out with Sea Shepherd, being able to go out on one of their on their expeditions, in Mexico, and they were explaining, about that, how they go and get those nets, and it was I had no idea.
Me either,
It
until I
was
saw the
just like,
documentary, because I was thinking it was everything else too.
Yeah. Kip's movie, What the Health,
Mhm.
helped a lot. And I did Cowspiracy.
Yep.
I tried Dominion, but I lasted about 15 minutes. It was too heartbreaking.
Which one?
Dominion.
Oh yeah, I tried that too.
But I was already vegan at that point. I'm like, I'm not going to torture myself.
Earthlings too. That's
I still
heavy.
haven't seen Earthlings. I'm
It's
like,
heavy.
it hurts my soul now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a part of it, so I don't need to sell myself anymore. And I don't preach it a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that preach it, and they're like very big
Same.
vegan people, have
Yeah.
the V tattoos and all that sort of stuff. and I get it. Like, I really do get it. Like, there is a realm for that, and that
Totally.
does help change people. But I'm more of a quiet achiever.
I love that.
like to draw people in with
Right.
what I do, with how healthy and fit I am. And then they find out that I'm plant-based
I
and
love
vegan,
that,
and they're
man.
like, "Oh shit,
Yeah, that's
you
great.
can do this, and you can lift that much, and you can be fit and healthy." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely."
You can have muscles.
Yeah, I'm turning 46 in March, so like, if I can do it and still be healthy and strong, I've been doing it for 6 years. Then like, there really isn't an excuse.
Yeah.
Like, in this modern day and age, and most people get their meat sources, the protein, from the supermarket, which is factory farming, which is a blight on humanity, and we literally are paying money every time we go to the supermarket to fund torture and suffering. It's horrible to think that, but that is literally what people are doing. We don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah. I feel like steak should be like a luxury. They should be like $100-something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be like high end just to have a steak. It should be, if they're even going to make steaks anymore.
Well, if all they have to do is remove the government subsidiaries, and it would be, dairy and poultry and meat, it's funded by the government because it's too expensive. So all of the
it doesn't.
It's
make
crazy.
It's completely backwards. If anything, they should be giving money to people who are growing vegetables and grains and things
like
that are
moving
for
away from the
people.
monocrops,
Right.
Actually give them money for the organic farming and the multi-crops, so they're actually supporting each other instead of these huge destructive monocrops that destroy the ground just as much as the pesticides that they're putting on them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible cycle, because a lot of this connected with people's health, and of course that's another cost on people.
Another
and everything
cost.
like with everything that's going on with like your doctors telling you from eating this type of lifestyle, living this type of lifestyle, it's just like cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes. I mean, there's always been a health crisis going on in the U.S. for extremely long time that people have been ignoring. So
It's affordable though. That's one of the big problems.
Yeah, people think being vegan isn't. It's so expensive. That's like another thing.
It can be expensive. It can also be cheap.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends, Josh, survives on very minimal amounts spent on groceries. And he's a big dude and he's a super fit dude. And he eats the same thing every day and he loves it. And he spends like $130 a week on food.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm getting like $300 from Instacart, like 4 times a week, because I like eating tortellini.
I mean, some of the restaurants can be expensive, but you treat yourself once. You know what I mean?
Once in a while, yeah. I try not to eat out that much. That's crazy.
You have a question? Grab the mic. You have a question? Sorry.
Good question. I was
talking the mic.
Don't get any peanut butter on my mic.
Go ahead.
Okay, honestly, so I'm not an argument, but I have this a lot with certain people, and I want to know your perspective on. People like to say, if being vegan is so good for you, I want to know what you have to say about this, because I've heard it from so many different people. Eating meat is the way we've done it for hundreds of thousands of years, from the age of time. I want to not argument. I just want to hear your perspective on what you would say to someone who's like, we've been eating meat our whole lives. That's why we have sharp canines. I know. But
he riffs with his friends about this for sure.
Well, the first thing is they don't have sharp canines.
I know.
They're not even canines. Like
we have 2 kind of not really sharp teeth. And
I know
it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But I want to know, because they're like, because everyone always says this to me. They're always like, well, we've been eating meat forever, and it's hard to get big off a vegan diet. I'm like, no, you're wrong. But I want to know what you would say to someone who was like, we've been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years. Why should we stop eating meat now? And not about the earth itself, but as a human, why are we, quote unquote, meant to eat meat? And we're bred for that, and we are animals.
Okay. Nice question, Max Morse.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I do is always direct them to smarter people than me, that have actually put in the work and have the backing. So I would send them one over to Game Changers, done by our friend James Wilkes,
which was debunked and bunked back and forth on Rogan. Those are great episodes.
Yeah, Chris Kessler and whatever, and James. But where's this evidence that meat was always beneficial to us, and we've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years? If you look at those studies that James did, and seeing the most athletic people were the gladiators, and they cut down their bones and did the test and discovered that they were eating 90 to 95% vegetables. So where is this? You know what it is? It's a comfort to do the things that you've always done because you know how to do it.
It's facts.
And we've been raised to do this. And if it was the other way around and animals were worshipped, say, like Muslims don't eat pigs. Imagine trying to teach them that, you got to eat pigs. It wouldn't work, because they've always done it one way. It's a religious belief.
Sacred cows in India.
Yeah. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
And people don't like getting uncomfortable. I believe in getting uncomfortable, because that is where you're given the opportunity to grow and change and become the strong, resilient human being that you're supposed to be, instead of just staying this one path and being comfortable and everything's okay, and you never learn who you are. So to that, I always direct them to films, because they're always going to be able to explain it better than I can. But also, where is this evidence that this is what we've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years? Some people would argue that we actually became the way we are because of the foods we sow and reap, because that actually built civilization, because we were actually allowed to stop. We didn't have to roam as nomads, hunting and hunting and hunting.
Which is, I was just going to point out, it's like people don't understand how difficult it is to hunt down an animal, and then the whole process of making into edible meat and everything like that. Yeah. Not everybody's going to be able to do that, and we don't live in that time period anymore.
Yeah, things change.
Things have definitely radically changed, and it's unsustainable, for everyone to be able to do that. It's just not possible, and there's no need for it.
That's the other angle.
It doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of things we did in the past that don't make sense now. I mean, not in comparison, you know, there was slavery, you know, but there still going on, but it doesn't mean that, oh, we always did that for hundreds and hundreds of years. It still doesn't make it right.
Good point.
You know,
Great point.
But it's just like, nobody's going to be out there. There's no need for people to go out and do all the hunting and stuff that people think like, yeah, that's our natural. Nobody that we know is living in that type of lifestyle. You know, we live in big cities with a lot of people, and there's a lot of different options that are out there, and there's no reason to live in that lifestyle. It's not realistic.
For domesticated modern human beings.
Yeah.
There is always going to be a requirement for subsistence hunting for these small villages and people, nomads and things like that. Like, they have to eat these animals, and they have to live off the ocean because that's all they have.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be, you know, there's going to be a need in places like Hawaii where the deer are overpopulating and they're destroying the island. Are there other options? Yes. You know, they could take that, repopulate. They could, you know, they're going to kill it because they're destroying islands and stuff like that. But why not use that to feed homeless? Or, you know, there are other options to people just going out and hunting things for sport. Like, that's one thing I hate the most, especially shark fishing.
Ooh.
Yeah. You're literally just torturing and murdering an animal for fun.
And also like tigers and like rhinos and like
the people do the trophy hunting.
Yeah.
I hate that shit.
That angers me so much.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I hear a lot is but we need to kill these animals and these to make food because it's so overpopulated. You want to know why it's overpopulated? It's because we mass produce cows, and pigs, and we mass produce it for consumption.
Yeah.
They're not just there. They're not just there.
Well, also because we have interjected humanity into the world around us so greatly that they no longer have predators. Because we wanted to stay safe, so what do? We killed the mountain lions, we killed the wolves, we killed the bears. So there's, you know, you want to have these animals, there's a balance. There is, like, these animals, the antelope, the deer, and whatever, they can produce at a certain rate because those animals need that amount of food to survive the predators.
Yeah.
It's the same with sharks. We need these sharks. They're slow to mature. They're slow to reproduce because they're the apex. We don't want them overpopulating. But the fish underneath them that they eat, they populate and become sexually mature very, very rapidly so that there's food for them, for the sharks to eat. You remove the sharks, there's nothing to stop that overpopulation. Those fish that the sharks eat will explode in numbers. Then they decimate everything underneath them. So you think about the fish under them that are herbivorous, and they might eat the algae off the coral reefs. There's no sharks eating the carnivorous fish. The carnivorous fish wipe out those herbivorous fish. Now there's nothing to eat the algae. The algae consumes the reef, destroys it, suffocates it. Now there's no home for that whole system. There's no eels, there's no rays, there's no mollusks, there's no anemones. There's none of that stuff. So by removing sharks, you have wiped out the whole ecosystem. That's what people don't understand. By wiping out the whole ecosystem, guess what happens to that area? You've created a dead zone. Guess what happens when you create enough of those dead zones? There's a fulcrum point that you can't come back from. You've destroyed the ocean, therefore you've destroyed humanity. So this is not just about sharks. It's not just about cows and the pollution from monocropping and agriculture and pigs that we're putting into the water tables, into the rivers, creating dead zones in the oceans, destroying the quality of water that we have in the water tables that people drink out of the taps, the cancers that are in the community around these animal agriculture facilities, the slavery that you're using, and the PTSD that these workers in the slaughterhouses are getting. Like, there is nothing good about this industry. Nothing. Except that it feeds populations that we could feed without those animals.
Right.
It seems like, how long have you been vegan for now?
6 years.
It seems like your world just fucking opened up completely just by having that conversation with that guy about the killing and putting that together and you becoming vegan. And then you realize it's not just about eating animals, it's about the environment. And it's amazing, dude.
Well, it started with a little spark of not wanting to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And then it just grew from there. And the more you learn about it, the more you understand it.
But you can feel your passion about it too. You know what I mean? It's a really big part of you.
It's hard. You know, you go through the phases.
Yeah.
When you turn vegan, and one of them is uncontrollable fury.
Yeah.
And you want everybody to be that way or feel listen to you and like, do you see what's happening?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Shake people, wake them up, but then you don't want to be too preachy, or then you want to be.
Exactly. So occasionally it comes out, and I'm just like, how can you be so blind? How can you care so little about another living being? Like that, the lack of compassion is what kills me the most. Then they have the argument, well, the veganism kills the crop dusters and, kills all the rabbits. And
what about the plants? They're breathing too. They have feelings too.
It's like, come on.
And the stereotypes are like meat, to be manly and have the protein, you have to eat the meat. That's a total thing we've been the world's talked about for years, a fabrication of that. Like, you have to get meat to muscles and all that stuff.
I'm bigger and stronger than I've ever been. Like I said, I was eating all the chickens in the world. I was only eating chicken and broccoli or kangaroo. And I never got those muscles. I'm actually bigger and stronger than I've ever been. And
man.
I'm turning 46 and I'm still strong. I don't struggle keeping weight on.
I can testify to that. I felt very weak and I was like, man, I need to step up my game, man.
Oh, when you guys are doing some highway to hell stuff?
Yeah, we went to the gym and it was just like, holy shit.
And I'm by no means a bodybuilder. I'm not like shredded or ripped or huge. But I also don't want to be. I'm not watching my macros. I don't count my calories. I don't do any of that. I just eat whatever the fuck I want. Yeah. And then I exercise.
Exactly. Yeah. You have 3 books, right? Uncaged, Tough as Fuck, and then the new one, Shark. Is that true? 3 books?
No,
more.
I have. So the first one was No Time for Fear. That was the original one that came out only in Australia.
Okay.
And then during COVID, I got really bored and I wrote Tough AF about. It was just a short ebook I wrote about how I went from like smoking, drinking, piece of athletic shit to like an elite military athlete, like what training I did to get there.
Okay.
And then I wrote Uncaged, which was the updated version of No Time for Fear, because there was like 8 years worth of stories after that book that no one knew about. It was never released in America. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to rewrite this whole thing. That came out in November last year. And then I got a book with HarperCollins called Shark.
Congrats. HarperCollins is no joke, man.
Yeah, they're really good.
Awesome.
Been doing continuous PR out here. I did Good Morning America, Access Hollywood, like iHeartRadio tours. So that's going really well. It was number 1 on one of the new release Amazon lists. And I'm just about to hopefully drop my first kids book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was going to self-publish, and then I sent it to my management, and they're like, don't you fucking dare self-publish this. They're like, this is amazing. Let me pitch it out there. I wanted to write a series of books about things that you go through as a kid and growing up. So for me, the first one was about amputation. Okay. So the story is about Bruce, the big red kangaroo that loses his tail.
Wow.
Yeah, and how, he calls on his friends and they go to get help and get information and eventually, overcome this sort of thing. And then I want to do bullying and I want to, being stories about being different,
Yeah. Love it, man.
That sort of thing. So hopefully that will get picked up and, but I love just sharing information, and books was such a huge part of my life, helped me escape the reality of my world, that I just want to, hopefully give some people some good stories, teach us some lessons, make a difference in their lives.
I love that. What about a documentary someday?
Actually, my friend Fran, who did Ray Parker Jr.'s and Dolly Parton's documentary and that sort of stuff, he started. Yeah, Fran.
Yeah.
He read Uncaged and he called me and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
dude, I'm 30 pages in. This story is amazing. Has anyone bought the rights to this?" I'm like, bro, I'm just waiting for Steven Spielberg to come knocking." So he's like, "Don't sell it." So he's been talking to my managers over the past couple of months.
Nice.
So
that would be great.
We'll see how that goes.
He's an awesome director.
I don't really get wrapped around the axles on anything anymore until it's actually happening.
Yeah, sure.
Because you go in this industry for so long, and I got asked to be a recurring main character on NCIS Los Angeles.
I was asking about acting
year.
Stuff, yeah.
And it was like they wanted me. They called me, they emailed me, they contacted me on social media, they called my managers, and it was like my role. And I'm like, oh, this is rad.
Right.
Do you have a working visa? Yes.
Okay.
Does your visa say actor? No.
Man.
So I never get excited until it's actually happening anymore. So we'll see. Whatever, I don't care. I'm not doing it for that. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. I enjoy it. And if none of these things sell, you know what? At least I'll still be continuing this life where I have a bunch of cool stories. I've done a bunch of things. I've tried to help people along the way. And all I really want to feel is like I have no regrets when I die the next time.
I mean, it's crazy how you growing up, you really had no purpose. You had no goals. You went to the military to kind of like just kind of go for it. And I was like, no, your brothers didn't really believe you could even do that. And you did that, and this crazy home life and growing up. And then you flipped something like being attacked by a shark into a whole entire, it just changed your whole life in such a positive way. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Just flipped it totally on a positive tip.
I don't regret
and that's almost
it
like not that that's your purpose, but you're a survivor of a shark attack, and you've changed into this totally different person, not just because of that, but then change your diet and your exercise and just everything. It's amazing, man.
Just I honestly never looked at like I did anything special whatsoever. All I did was not die.
Yeah.
And then I just want my life to have purpose. That's it. And I like staying busy because I wasted too much time in my teen years and my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I vowed that was the whole reason I could get off drugs as well when I was on the painkillers. You know, I was at home and I had OxyContin, I had Endone, I had gabapentin, I had temazepam, I had all this big bowl of drugs that I could self-administer to myself. But I was living in a fog and a cloud, and I didn't know how to focus on anything. I couldn't concentrate. And I thought, I've been here before when I was smoking hella weed, drinking on the weekends, doing that speed and ecstasy. And I swore to myself that I would never be that person again. And so that was what powered me to get off those drugs earlier than I was even supposed to by the doctors.
Yeah.
And so I just want to have purpose in my life and have some good stories, and that's it. And like I said,
you have some great stories.
Help people along the way.
Yeah,
you know, it's
definitely achieve.
What's the point of it if you can't make other people's lives better around you as well?
I know. I agree. Are you sober now too, or no?
Hell no.
Oh, what?
I love beer. I love tequila.
Okay.
But I don't have a problem with it. If I go and drink 15 beers. I'm like 15, 20 beers. I'm hanging out with the boys all day. It's okay. But I won't drink for another week. I'm like, I don't like.
Right.
Doesn't bother me. I'm actually going through. I don't like to call it sober because I'm not trying to stop myself from doing anything.
Somebody was saying like you're sober if you've had a problem.
Yeah, I guess that's what people who have had issues in the past would say. I'm sober.
You're right.
I just don't want to drink for the next 2 months, and so I've got a bunch of shoots coming up. I've got speaking jobs. I've got snowboarding trips. I just don't want to drink because I want to be sharp. Yeah. And so until I finish my jobs at the start of April, I'm going to do my very best to just not drink. Yeah. If it happens, if I have a beer, whatever, I'm not going to beat myself up. It's okay. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, back on it now.
You still get nervous speaking?
Sometimes when I haven't done it in a while. For the first year, my trick was know the first thing that I'm going to say and the last thing that I'm going to say, and everything else in the middle will be okay. And I'd get off stage for the first year and everyone would be clapping and I would think to myself, I have no idea what I just said. But they're clapping, so it must have been okay. Do
you ever watch stuff back of you speaking?
Never.
Okay.
Never. I've been doing it so long now, I understand what works.
Yeah.
And I know how to play that up. I know how to take people on this emotional roller coaster with me, and I really enjoy that. I have men cry, I have women cry, and I take them down to the deep, dark depths where they're like tearing up, and then it's like it can't get any worse, and you crack a joke. You end it on a funny, and they're crying and they're laughing and they're feeling so much, and I love that. I've had 70 people pass out over the years.
70?
Yeah. I haven't had it for
from hearing the story,
from seeing, from me talking through it, and also showing some of the surgery photos and the shark attack footage. And people, it's funny because it's always like I'll get to like 2 slides after the surgery photos, and people will fall over. And so I had like 6 people once at a launch for Microsoft. 6. Out of those 70 people, 67 of them are men. Never had a kid. And I've never had an American. So I was doing a job, like I've moved out here and I've toned it down a lot because I don't want people passing out anymore. It used to be funny. Now it's like so hard to get people's attention back. I'm like, can you just pay attention to me now? And so I toned it down a lot. But there was one job where I got a dude passed out. It was like a crowd of 400 here in America somewhere. And guy passed out. And I'm like, hey, my first American. And his table yelled out, he's Canadian. Still no Americans, which I'm fine with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets? You seem like a person with no regrets, really.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Regrets, I've treated people poorly, and sometimes, I get tired and cranky and I'll say the wrong thing, and I'm not always the nicest person on earth, but I know how to say sorry. I know how to, make it better. I know I'm not an asshole, even though driving around in LA kind of makes me one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like, whew, deep breaths. Let it go.
And so what's like a daily ritual for you, or something you do besides coffee and working out? You have like a schedule?
I get up, I make my bed, I go to the gym. I come home, I eat
Makes his
breakfast.
bed.
Yeah.
Talk
Again,
about important
we talk
that
about
is.
this on many issues.
It's very
many episodes.
important.
I come home, I eat breakfast, I walk my dogs.
So just training, yeah.
It's always the physical fitness. So it was one of the things that got me through the rehab, because I had to do it all myself, because there wasn't any military rehabilitation hospital. And so when they tried to send me off to an old person's hospital for rehab, I was like, fuck no. I live at Bondi Beach. I'm going home. And my best friend drove me to the army base every day. And so every day I was in the gym. And so what I did in the infantry, it was what I did in the clearance divers. Get up, go to work out. So it is my routine. Yeah. And if I did, I'll do 3 days on, I'll do push, legs, pull workout, and then I'll have a day off. Those days are rest days. I get to roll over and give my fiance a hug, a little snooze in, and then we get up, make breakfast, walk the dogs. What's a
good amount of sleep for you per night?
Oh God, more the better. I'm not
you
one
said
of those.
You're a shitty sleeper, though.
Yeah, I'm a shitty sleeper. So yeah, if I can get 8, then I'm good.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
but it's sometimes it's interrupted. The other day, I was doing a shoot for a movie that I was telling you guys about.
Yeah.
I still can't think of his name. UFC fighter that was in the Expendables, Randy Couture.
Oh.
So I was playing a skinhead for one of his movies, and I'd had too much coffee that day. And so I went home and I laid awake for most of the night in bed. And so I didn't get much sleep, but I still got up and I slept until 9 instead of 5 or 6, and went to the gym.
Is your mind always thinking about things? It's hard to shut down?
No, I'm pretty good at shutting it off.
Okay.
I'm just not that intelligent. And so, it's pretty easy. I think that's one of the things that women don't like about men is because a lot of I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been in a relationship for a long time like that. Whereas like, what are you thinking about? And like, nothing. And like, come on, you got to be thinking about something. Whereas men, I think we can literally be Homer Simpson and our brain is a donkey under a tree, like asleep.
It's
and
true.
we're just on static, just
a donkey under a tree.
Yeah. So my brain often does that. Example. And I feel like that's helped me a lot over the years, just like switching off. I can literally think about nothing. And that's the whole thing about meditation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I don't know how to meditate, because when I try to meditate, I start thinking about everything. But if I just sit down and switch off, I can do that.
Yeah.
Lucky you, man. Jeez.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing to be able to do that.
Silence my mind.
Yeah.
So that's what I do when I can't sleep. I just try and think about nothing.
Are you an optimist or pessimist?
Is there something in between?
Yeah, realist, my wife would call herself.
Realist, yeah. I guess it's like my political beliefs. I'm more of an independent, where I believe in, you have great ideas, you have great ideas. So let's just combine all the good ideas.
I like that.
So, if I was an optimist, then I couldn't say what I said before about the books and the shows.
Yeah.
It's all going to work out. It might not work out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but if it doesn't work out, then I'll deal with it and it'll be okay. My fiance would be like, he doesn't worry about anything because everything always works out. And I'm like, it's not that I'm optimist. I just have a belief that no matter how bad it's going to be, it eventually works out. But I'm not a pessimist either, even though I think that most things are not going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm just like, if it doesn't work out, cool, I'll work it out. If it does work out, cool, then that'll be cool. That'll be fun. I'll just, Maybe it won't. A lot of the things that you think are going to be so freaking amazing, you get to it and it's not that great.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
So just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
If it's great, then it's great. If it's shit, then it's shit. Feel bad for a little while, but don't let it ruin your whole day, your whole month, or your whole life.
I like that.
Yeah.
Fix it. Get on to whatever else it is you're doing.
Since you used to be a rapper and you're retired now, do you have like
I never know if it was a career well enough that I could
do you have like
retired.
a top 5 MCs or a favorite hip hop? Do you still listen? Do you listen to hip hop still, or maybe even new hip hop?
I definitely don't listen to new hip hop.
Okay, respect.
I tried. I put on that Apple Rap Life one day. I was in the car for an hour and I had to skip every song for an hour except for one song. I can't remember who it was. I think Nas came on or something.
Yeah.
Now I really like 50 Cent still, even though he's not doing anything. Like 50 Cent,
Wow.
50 Cent and Eminem got me through my deployments.
That's amazing, dude. Nobody ever mentions 50, but 50,
Yeah.
Get Rich or Die Trying, the songs before that, How to Rob, all the originals,
Yeah.
dude, incredible.
I really
man.
don't get sick of his music, but Rhiannon will always I've always been teased by my gym workout mix of 50 Cent and Ed Sheeran.
I love that.
I like to feel different things.
Okay.
You know, and his songs aren't like all these poppy love songs. Some of them are about getting fucked up with his boys.
Yeah.
You know, and having, having sex and partying and all that sort of stuff. So, but then sometimes there's like a catchy love song. I'm like, I don't want to like feel like I got to peel someone's cap and
Yeah.
being a gangster the whole workout. Sometimes I need to bring it down.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
there's some good-looking girls at the gym. I want to feel like, well, I don't know. Just take it as it comes.
So would you have a top 5 rappers?
Top 5. Lyrically, I'd have to say Eminem is probably the best out there at the moment. 50, old Nas, like Illmatic, definitely. I really love Jay-Z and Kanye's the album they did together.
Watch the Throne.
Is it the Gold album?
Yeah, Watch the Throne.
Yeah, that one. So I don't really have artists. I have because artists have amazing moments.
True.
I could never listen to a Busta Rhymes album, but he was so good on guest spots. He brought a flavor and an energy to so many people's music. Same as Lil Jon. Can you imagine listening to a Lil Jon album?
No.
but
I love his hits though. I love the songs he's on. That's a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so not really. I love individual moments by rappers and MCs and lyricists.
Yeah, you think you ever rhyme again?
Hell no.
I
I went on Sway 45 a few years back for to promote Shark Week.
And did he know about your rap history?
No, he didn't. It came up as we were talking, and they're like, "What?"
You on Sway in the morning? That's sick.
Yeah. And I didn't know what I used to listen to Sway and King Tech.
Yeah.
But I didn't know you had a radio show. I didn't know that people go on there and freestyle for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I could never freestyle. I was
Okay.
I would always write stuff down. And then they tried to get me to rap, and I got halfway through the first verse.
I'm gonna find this
Smoking
shit, dude.
Hydro, but
deep dive.
I was just 20 years I was rapping before that. So
Smoking Hydro. That's right. With the fucking, I'm listening to that shit today. So he pulled that up on the show.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He just. They asked me to rap, and I was like, oh shit.
So that's a crazy gem from today. I had no idea, but that's incredible, man.
Yeah, we had a good time. That was the same day that I did your buddy, Me But Tattooed. Jason Ellis.
Oh yeah, Jason Ellis. Yeah.
The same day I did Jason's show.
Oh wow.
And then I did a whole bunch over at SiriusXM, and it was
Shout
a
out to
good
Jason
day.
Ellis, badass man. Love Jason Ellis, dude.
He's hilarious.
It's such a small world. We're all connected in some way. I mean, it's pretty amazing,
yeah.
man. It's so cool. Well, fuck, man, that was a really great hanging conversation. Do you have any more questions there?
I do, but I think off the mic.
No, off the mic.
Yeah,
Why,
no.
Too personal?
No,
He said you can ask him
personal.
anything.
No, I was just curious, how does it work? And it's a completely different subject of
That's
hip
fine.
hop, but it was the military. When things happen that happen to you, is it man, I got to lawyer up? Is it?
Good
possible
question.
To lawyer up if you're in part of the military? They're like, no, this is your deal that we're going to give for you.
We got your back.
We got your back. We're going to give you. We're going to pay for or is it this deal is shitty, and I need to get a lawyer. Are there
That's a great
lawyers
question.
within the military, or can you get outside lawyer? Or
This actually came up in the paperwork afterwards, and this is what they told me. I don't know if it's 100% true. It came through on the paperwork as well. It's like, this is your deal. You are welcome to go and lawyer up.
Okay.
But we have a agreement with the government that you can only get this amount of money out of the military. So if you lose, then you'll get nothing.
Gotcha.
So it's like, take our offer, or, you know, gamble your bets. Maybe you'll get some, you won't get as much as we're offering you, or you get nothing. And also, if you do that, you don't get any of the medical benefits either. So, you know, my medical benefits for the first year were in the $2 million range.
I can only
course.
imagine.
So now I get all my prosthetics are for free. I don't get medical treatment living overseas though. So I only get it if I live in Australia. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's kind of a bit of a dick drag, but you know, it is
Interesting
just-
question. That's interesting.
I was
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I
so
didn't know if they would be like, nope.
I highly recommend people in like combat roles get in private insurance. So we were told afterwards to get it's called body bit insurance.
Okay.
And one of my buddies, Damien Tomlinson, who was a commando, he went over to Afghanistan and he got blown up and he lost both of his legs, some of the usage of one of his arms, and he had double body bit insurance. So he ended up being able to buy an apartment at Bondi Beach with the money that he got. So at least he had somewhere to live without, you know, having to pay rent and stuff like that. Whereas I ended up with, you know, a couple $100,000.
Wow.
And yeah.
And is there like prosthetics? That's called, correct?
Yeah.
Is there companies that are making more new stuff that you're excited to try? Are you happy with what you have right now, or you seem like you have all kinds of?
Yeah. I'm happy with what I have.
Yeah.
I'd love it to be better. But the problem is the war stopped. That's the problem. Not in the way people think. Like, I don't love war at all, but every technological advancement has come throughout human history because of war. And so when all the American soldiers were coming home missing limbs and stuff like that through Iraq, through Afghanistan, the American government was throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars into R&D for these companies to get better and better. And now that has died off, the innovation has slowed down.
Got you.
So it went from like pretty good stuff to absolutely phenomenal stuff. With, you know, my leg has 6 microprocessors in it, an accelerometer, a gyroscope. It's waterproof. It's got a running mode. It's got a free swing mode. It's like all this stuff, but it's not getting much better as quickly as it was before.
Right.
Same with the hand. I've had this hand that hasn't advanced in any way that I'm aware of in 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it came up to this hand very, very quickly. You know, it advanced very quickly to get to this during the wartime. And so that's, you know, I would love it if it got quicker, but yeah, unless people are in jail. The best thing about what's happening with prosthetic technology is this stuff that I have is so damn expensive. Normal people can't afford it.
Yeah.
So there's other companies out there. There's one company called Unlimited Tomorrow that has created an amazing prosthetic hand, and it's probably $8,000.
Okay.
That's way more affordable
Totally.
than $45,000 to $90,000, and they're great. They look great. They've sent me one. That, you know, there's some failings that I don't like about it because I have the best in the world. But for someone that doesn't, and this is their first hand, $8,000, you know, that's amazing, and it's innovative, and they're gonna keep getting better and better and better. So, yeah, there's companies like that around that have brought the cost price down for normal people.
Okay.
That's the best thing that's happened.
That's amazing. I remember seeing, like, even back in the day, like, people had wooden ones, like, a long time ago. Remember? Like, just way back.
It was, I mean,
it's crazy how far it's come.
Thank God for smart people.
Yeah, I know.
If it was left up to me, I'd be pretty good at Halloween,
I
but
definitely
that's about it.
I'm thankful for those smart people, absolutely, every day, because I'm just like, I don't know how any of this stuff works or putting none of it. But I love seeing technology advance, and it's sad that it only comes about because of war. And it just
it's not strictly
no, I know, but
things like this,
But man, it's like, come on. It's like I was thinking as a young lad that things would be so far advanced by now. And
That's
I
because
think
we grew up with the Jetsons and
Well,
Back to the
true.
Future.
Oh, I think the mindset was there. It's just that there was so much other bullshit that's surrounding us that we're pushing our time and effort and thoughts and imagination.
There's corporations holding us back because they're making so much money off what they have always made, the petroleum industry and that sort of thing. We won't even get into big pharma, but the petroleum industry specifically, like Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all that sort of stuff. We had electric cars in like the late 1800s. But we do you know why? There was a subway railway system in LA,
yes,
right? Up until the 60s,
right?
You know why that got cancelled?
Yeah,
because they created a freeway.
Yeah.
We don't need this anymore. Now we got freeways, and then the rubber industry as well. You don't think about that. How much money is involved in making tires? Then the petroleum industry goes into everything, every part of our lives, from the plastic kayak that these environmentalists are paddling out on, and to the medication, into everything. So that holds us back because they have their fingers in every single industry, and so we're not going to be able to advance until they give us that opportunity or someone else strikes out. Maybe like Elon. I'm no Elon worshiper or anything like that. But it's hard not to think maybe he's doing some great stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not that smart, man. I'm not that smart. I can get a little philosophical, but I know my limitations. I'm just a simple man trying to do good things. That's it.
Well, you are, man. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your story. And
definitely
it's super inspiring, man. It really is, man.
Cheers, fellas.
Great to finally meet you in person and hang. I'm psyched to see what you guys do with Highway to Health, too, when that comes out.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
So you get your ass kicked on there, Derek.
Yes, you're going to see it whooped.
And people just can find you if you have a website, Instagram. Are you on social media? Do you check your messages and stuff like that?
Not really.
Okay.
I really don't like social media.
Okay.
I do use it because Discovery Channel makes me.
Okay.
So, but I usually I'm on my Instagram and I post to Instagram, then it automatically goes to my Facebook. So I don't use Facebook at all.
Yeah, same.
It was like Facebook wore me out. It was like everyone
extremely exhausted.
It's got crazy.
Everyone's airing their dirty laundry, whereas Instagram was like everyone showing their best life, and I was like, this is cool. This is cool. I get it to be inspired by all these cool things, and now it's
crazy
like,
political on Facebook.
On my Instagram, there's literal pictures, videos coming up of chicks with no clothes, and I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah,
I thought that was banned. Now there's porn on Twitter, and I'm like, why am I getting all this garbage? So I'm not really that interested. I do use Instagram. It's just my name. Everything's my name.
Well, you check messages from people?
Yeah, I do occasionally. Yeah. So Paul de Gelder, my website's pauldegelder.com. You can book me for speaking jobs on that, or you can get in touch with my management for TV shows and documentaries, whatever it is.
I'm psyched for your children's books. It sounds really awesome.
Yeah, me too. I love working with kids. Yeah. They were the ones that got me into the speaking industry.
For sure.
Made me feel the best, and so hopefully I can help out the kids.
When will those books come out? This year, maybe?
I was going to self-publish like next week.
You were told not to, though. Right?
Yeah, now it's up to my managers. They're going to get back to me within the next week, they said, and tell me what they got. So we'll see.
Can you say the names of the books at all? No, you have names.
Well, the first one was just like a litmus test. So this is Bruce, the big red kangaroo that loses his tail. Bruce. So we'll see if that gets picked up. I wrote that book in half a day. Wow. So it's so much easier than writing a normal book. Sure. I got to spend 6 months to a year writing all the other books. Yeah. Then I got to get my buddy Geraint, who's a Welsh, Iraq, Afghanistan vet. He's a ghostwriter for James Patterson. He's done his own fictional books about the Romans fighting the Gauls. Wow. He's done his own book about his time in Afghanistan and Iraq. He's like ghost-written books for incredible people. So I give my books that I write to him, and then he turns them into a legible writing.
Right.
Yeah.
How's your grammar?
My mum was a grammar Nazi, so my grammar's fine. It's just I write how I speak, and so I've learnt to change that somewhat, but not as good as he's a professional writer. He can pump out a James Patterson novel in 4 to 6 weeks. Damn. Yeah, with very little instruction from James. So he's just incredibly talented. He just did a book with another one of our friends about the evacuation of Afghanistan. I can't remember what it's called, but that's just coming out now from the people on the ground, from the Afghans, from the soldiers. The frontline troops there were the British paras, the American Marines. So everyone on the ground, no influence whatsoever, telling the true story of what happened with that horrible evacuation from Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really good book. His name's Geraint Jones, so look him up.
I definitely want to check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
That was incredible.
Pleasure.
Incredible.
You hungry?
Awesome.
You hungry?
Yes, stop.
Yes. All right.
All right. Bye, everybody. Peace. I always ask my guests if they have any regrets. I personally don't have any regrets. Even when it comes to my tattoos, I have the silliest tattoos. Even my ET on my leg, it's still a childhood memory for me, and I love it. I've had tattoos on top of tattoos strictly because I wanted more tattoos. I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swiped the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details or anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life, One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to Removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations. U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology. Cryotechnology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, we talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to Removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out. Yo, people always ask me what kind of frames I'm rocking. I've been rocking Caddis for a couple years. They make amazing progressive readers, which I wear. Also, they make sunglass readers, anti-glare, anti-smudge coating, anti-scratch, and anti-aging. That's why I look mad young when I wear them. I'm just kidding. But they make amazing frames. Caddis, so stoked to have you guys part of the podcast. You can go to caddislife.com/Toby10 and get $10 off your first purchase. Stoked. Thank you, Caddis. Welcome to the fam. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. They have now blessed me with my own code. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst. Stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives.